The cabin cost me $473 for the week. I kept thinking about that number while I turned off Highway 270 onto the gravel access road. 473. That was 2 weeks of groceries if I shopped smart. That was the electric bill for 3 months back home in Little Rock. That was money I didn't really have, put on a credit card that Peyton didn't know was nearly maxed. The tires crunched over the gravel. Dust rose up behind us in a tan cloud. August in Arkansas doesn't mess around. It was the kind of heat that made the air feel thick, made you sweat just sitting still. The AC in my Civic was running full blast and still barely keeping up. Peyton had her window cracked anyway. She always did that. Said recycled air gave her a headache. "It's pretty out here," she said. I grunted. Didn't trust myself to say much. We'd been okay for the last hour or so, which meant we were probably due for another fight. That was how it had been going lately. A few hours of peace, then something would set one of us off, and we'd be back at it. The cabin sat about 50 yards off the main road, tucked between pine trees and scrub oak. It looked decent in the photos online. Looked decent now, too. Single story, wood siding painted dark green, a small covered porch facing the lake. I could see water through the trees, flat and bright under the afternoon sun. I pulled up next to the porch and killed the engine. "Finally," Joseph said from the back seat. He had his phone out. Probably hadn't looked up the entire drive. 14-year-old kids. That was their whole world, that little screen. "Grab your bag," I told him. "And the cooler." Yeah. Peyton was already out, stretching her arms over her head. She had her hair in a low ponytail and was wearing legging things and a gray hoodie, even though it was 96 degrees. I didn't get it, but I'd stopped asking. I tried to treat it like a rare week off from my job at the Arkansas Department of Health. That's what I kept telling myself. A vacation, a break, time to reset with Peyton, maybe patch up some of the crap that had been building between us for months. Time to do the decent uncle thing and take Joseph fishing or whatever kids his age were into. But I couldn't ignore why we were really here. Sylvia had called me 3 weeks ago. My sister. She'd been crying, which wasn't unusual. Said she was in a bad spot. Said Joseph's dad was being a problem again and she needed to sort some things out, and could I please just take Joseph for a week? Maybe 2. I should have said no. I didn't. And then 2 days before we were supposed to leave, Sylvia stopped answering her phone. Texts went through, but she didn't reply. I drove by her apartment in North Little Rock, and her car wasn't there. The neighbor said she'd seen Sylvia leave with 2 suitcases 4 days ago. So now I had Joseph for the week, maybe longer. And I had Peyton, who'd made it real clear she thought this whole trip was a bad idea, and that I should have said no to Sylvia, and that I had a problem with boundaries when it came to family. She wasn't wrong. But what was I supposed to do? Let Joseph stay with his dad? That guy was a piece of work on his best days. I popped the trunk and started unloading. We'd packed light. My duffel, Peyton's rolling suitcase, Joseph's backpack that looked like he'd just shoved clothes in without folding anything, the cooler with sandwich stuff and drinks, a box of dry goods from Walmart. I'd stopped there on the way out of Little Rock and grabbed what I could. Bread, peanut butter, a box of spaghetti, some cans of sauce, chips, a case of Coke. The property manager had said the cabin came with basics, pots, pans, dishes, that kind of thing. I was counting on it. $473 didn't leave a lot left over for eating out. "Where's the key?" Peyton asked. "Lockbox," I said. "On the porch." The email confirmation had been specific about that. Lockbox mounted to the left of the door. Code was the last 4 digits of my phone number. I hauled the cooler up the steps. The porch boards were solid under my feet, didn't creak or sag. That was something. I'd rented a cabin in Heber Springs once, years ago, and the whole deck felt like it might collapse if you stepped wrong. The lockbox was right where it was supposed to be, black metal combination dial on the front. I spun it to 7283 and the latch clicked open. Inside was a single key on a wooden keychain shaped like a fish. Bass, maybe. I'm not great at fish. I grabbed it. That's when I noticed the envelope taped underneath the lockbox. Manila, letter-sized, with something written on the front in blue ink. To the one who paid, that was it. No name, just that. Peyton was coming up the steps with her suitcase. Joseph was still at the car, messing with his phone. "What's that?" she asked. "Don't know yet." I peeled the envelope off. The tape came away easy, like it had been stuck there recently. The envelope wasn't sealed, just tucked closed. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Printer paper, standard weight. The text looked typed, but not like a computer, more like an old typewriter. The letters were slightly uneven, some darker than others. At the top, in bold, rules for your stay, then a numbered list. 1. Do not go to the shoreline after dark. If you hear your name called from the water, do not answer. 2. Keep a lantern burning on the porch from dusk until dawn. Battery is fine. It doesn't have to be flame. 3. If the water goes flat while the trees are still moving, go inside immediately. Lock the doors. 4. Do not whistle near the lake. Do not throw stones into the water after sunset. 5. If you see someone standing in the reeds at the north end of the property, wave once. Only once. Then go inside. 6. The cabin is safe as long as you follow these rules. The lake is old, and it remembers. I read it twice. Peyton was looking over my shoulder. What the hell is that? Some kind of, I don't know, rules, I guess. Let me see. I handed it to her. She scanned it, her expression shifting from curious to annoyed. "This is so stupid," she said, like genuinely stupid. "Who does this?" "The property manager, maybe. It's a gross prank, trying to scare people. Probably thinks it's funny." Joseph came up the steps, his backpack slung over one shoulder. "What's stupid?" "Nothing," I said. Peyton handed him the paper anyway. That was her thing lately. If I said one thing, she'd do the opposite just to make a point. Joseph read it, grinning. "Dude, is this place haunted?" "No," I said. "Do not go to the shoreline after dark." He read out loud, putting on a spooky voice. "If you hear your name called from the water." "It's a joke," Peyton said. Her voice had that clipped edge it got when she was irritated. "And it's a crappy one. You don't scare kids with stuff like this. It's not funny. It's just mean." "I'm not scared," Joseph said. He was still grinning. "I think it's cool. Like a creepypasta or whatever." I took the paper back from him and looked at it again. The thing that bugged me was how specific it was. Most pranks like this, they'd keep it vague. Spooky lake, don't go out at night, maybe throw in a ghost story. This wasn't like that. This had details. The reeds at the north end, waving once, a lantern, battery, or flame, the water going flat while the trees moved. That last one didn't make sense as a joke. It was too weird, too particular. "Keith," Peyton was watching me. "You're not actually buying this, right?" "No," I said. "I'm not." "Then throw it away." "Yeah, okay." But I didn't. I unlocked the cabin door and brought the cooler inside. The front room was small but clean. A couch and a chair facing a brick fireplace. A kitchenette along the back wall with a 2-burner stove and a mini fridge. A table with 4 mismatched chairs. 2 doors on the left, probably bedrooms. 1 door on the right, bathroom. It smelled like pine cleaner and something faintly musty. Not bad, just old. I set the cooler on the counter and put the paper down next to it. Peyton came in behind me, dragging her suitcase. She saw where I'd put the paper and shook her head, but didn't say anything. Joseph was already exploring, opening doors, checking out the bedrooms. "Can I have the one with the window?" he called. "Sure," I said. Peyton folded her arms. "You're really keeping that?" "I'm not keeping it. I just put it down. You didn't throw it away. I'll throw it away later." Keith. What? She looked at me for a long moment. Then she sighed and turned away, heading for the other bedroom. I stood there in the little kitchen, staring at the paper. I didn't believe any of it. I'm not superstitious. I don't do ghost stories or lake monsters or whatever this was supposed to be. I worked in public health. I dealt with real problems. Contaminated wells, improper septic systems, rats in restaurant kitchens, stuff you could see and measure and fix. But I didn't throw the paper away, because it felt weirdly specific and detailed for a joke, and because something about the way it was written, the uneven typewriter letters, the plain manila envelope, the tape stuck under the lockbox where you wouldn't see it unless you were paying attention, made it feel less like a prank and more like a warning someone actually meant. I left it on the counter and went to unpack. I made spaghetti for dinner. Not fancy. Just the box from Walmart, and a jar of sauce I heated on one of the burners. Joseph set the table without being asked, which surprised me a little. Peyton poured 3 plastic cups of Coke from the case. We were about halfway through eating when the lights went out. Not a flicker, just instant black. Seriously? Peyton said. I pulled my phone out and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut across the table, showing Joseph's plate with a pile of noodles still on it. Peyton did the same with hers, angling it so we had 2 overlapping circles of light on the scratched wood surface. Is this normal? Joseph asked. Don't know, I said. First night. We kept eating. It felt weird, but what else were we going to do? The cabin was warm enough without the overhead light. I could hear the trees moving outside, a steady rustling that hadn't been there earlier in the day. Wind picking up, probably. Joseph finished first and asked if he could look around outside with his phone. Stay on the porch, I said. He got up and headed for the door. I heard it open, then his footsteps on the boards. Peyton twirled spaghetti on her fork. You think the breaker tripped? Maybe. You gonna check it? After I finish. She didn't say anything to that. We ate in silence for another minute. Just the sound of forks on plates and the wind outside. Then I saw headlights through the window. Except they weren't headlights, just the shape of a vehicle rolling up the gravel drive in the dark. No lights on at all. I stood up. What? Peyton said. Someone's here. I walked to the window and looked out. An old pickup, maybe a Ford. Dark paint that I couldn't make out the color of in the dim light from our phones. It pulled up next to my Civic and stopped. The engine cut off. Joseph came back inside. There's a truck. I see it. The driver's door opened and a woman got out. She moved across the gravel toward the porch without hesitation, boots crunching on the stones. She walked like she'd been here 100 times. I went to the door and opened it before she knocked. She was maybe mid-40s, solid build, dark auburn hair cut blunt at her shoulders. She wore jeans and a jacket that looked water-resistant, the kind you'd wear if you worked outside a lot. She stopped at the base of the porch steps and looked up at me. Evening, she said. I'm Iris Long, property manager. Keith Arnold, I said. We just got in this afternoon. I know, owner told me you were coming. She glanced past me into the cabin, taking in Peyton and Joseph standing near the table with their phone lights still on. Power go out on you? About 10 minutes ago. She nodded. Happens all the time out here. Storm doesn't even have to be close. Grid's old and the lines run through a lot of trees. Usually comes back within an hour or 2. Okay, I said. I didn't know what else to say. It seemed like a long drive just to tell us that. Iris looked at me for a second, then asked, You find the rules? My stomach tightened a little. Yeah, we found them. Her posture changed. Not a lot, but I noticed. Her shoulders dropped maybe half an inch, and she exhaled through her nose. Relief. That's what it looked like. Good, she said. That's good. Peyton came up behind me. You wrote those? Iris shook her head. No, ma'am. Owner did. I just make sure they get to the renters. They're fake, right? Peyton said. Like a joke. Iris didn't answer right away. She looked at Peyton, then at me, then past us to where Joseph was standing in the doorway to the main room. They're not a joke, she said finally. Her voice was flat, practical. You follow them, you'll be fine. Come on, Peyton said. You don't actually believe. I believe in what works, Iris said. She cut Peyton off without raising her voice. I've been managing this property for 6 years. Every renter who follows the rules has a quiet week and goes home fine. The ones who don't. She paused. Well, there's been a few incidents. I felt cold. What kind of incidents? The kind that get the sheriff involved, Iris said. Missing persons, search and rescue. Couple times the dogs found someone in the water who shouldn't have been swimming that time of night. She looked at me again. You seem like a smart man. You paid cash. You got here on time. You're asking the right questions. Just follow the rules. She turned and walked back down the steps before I could respond. Halfway to her truck, she stopped and looked back. One more thing, she said. The lantern. Use a battery one, not candles. Doesn't matter what kind, long as it runs on batteries and stays lit all night. You got one? No, I said. Didn't bring one. She walked to the bed of her truck and pulled out 2 packs of D-cell batteries, the kind that come in an 8-pack. She came back up the steps and set them on the porch railing. There's a lantern in the storage closet, she said. Left side of the kitchen behind the broom. Owner keeps spares. Make sure it's got fresh batteries and put it out here before full dark. Okay, I said. She nodded once and went back to her truck. The engine started and she reversed out of the drive. Still no headlights, just the shape of the truck disappearing into the trees. I stood there on the porch holding the batteries. Joseph came out and looked at them. That was weird, he said. Yeah. Peyton stayed inside. I could see her through the window, standing by the table with her arms crossed. I went back in and set the batteries on the counter. The rules paper was still sitting there next to the cooler. I looked at it again. Rule 2. Keep a lantern burning on the porch from dusk until dawn. You're not seriously going to do what she said, Peyton said. I'm thinking about it. Keith, it's a prank. She's in on it. Maybe. She drove out here in the dark with no headlights just to make sure we're scared. That's not normal. I didn't have a good answer for that. She was right. It wasn't normal. But the way Iris had looked when I said we'd found the rules, that relief, that didn't feel like someone playing a prank. The lights came back on at 9:30. I checked my phone for the time. We'd been sitting in the dark for just over an hour. Joseph was on the couch, messing with his phone. Peyton was in the bedroom. I was in the kitchen putting the leftover spaghetti in the fridge when Joseph looked up. Can I go down to the dock? He asked. No. Why not? I've got a flashlight. It's after dark. So? So the rules say don't go to the shoreline after dark. He groaned. Uncle Keith, come on. Those are fake. Peyton came out of the bedroom. He's got a point. The porch light's on. We can see the dock from here. It's like 50 feet. Doesn't matter, I said. It's not even late, she said. And the rules are obviously just warnings for people who get drunk and fall in. Don't go swimming at night. Don't whistle around because it's rude to other campers. Don't throw rocks because you might hit a boat. It's common sense dressed up like a ghost story. I looked at her. Then why did Iris drive out here to make sure we found them? Because she's committed to the bid, Peyton said. Or because the owner's paranoid and makes her check. Either way, it's not real. You don't know that. Neither do you. We stood there looking at each other. Joseph stayed quiet on the couch, watching us. I'm not letting him go down there, I said. Of course you're not, Peyton said. Her voice had an edge now. Because you always have to be the one making the rules. You always have to be in control. That's not what this is, isn't it? She stepped closer. You booked this place without asking me. You paid for it without telling me how. You decided we were coming here and I just had to go along with it. You said you wanted to get away. I wanted us to talk, Keith, not run off to some creepy cabin in the woods where you can pretend everything's fine. My jaw tightened. We're not doing this right now. When are we doing it? You won't talk about the credit cards. You won't talk about your sister. You just make decisions and expect me to follow them. Joseph got up from the couch. I'm going to go to my room. You don't have to, I said. Yeah, I do. He walked past us and closed the door behind him. Peyton and I stood in the kitchen. The light overhead was too bright after the dark. It made everything feel harsh. I'm trying to keep us safe, I said quietly. From what? A piece of paper? From whatever's out there that made someone write that paper. She laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You don't even believe in this stuff. You're just using it as an excuse to control what we do. That's not fair, isn't it? I didn't answer. My hands were shaking a little, so I put them in my pockets. Peyton shook her head and walked back to the bedroom. The door didn't slam, but it closed hard enough that I heard it. I stood in the kitchen alone. The spaghetti pot was still in the sink. The rules paper was still on the counter. The 2 packs of batteries Iris left were sitting next to it. I thought about packing everything back in the car, driving home tonight, calling the owner in the morning and asking for a refund, knowing I wouldn't get one. Maybe Peyton was right. Maybe I was using the rules as an excuse. Maybe I just wanted control because everything else in my life was falling apart and this was the one thing I could manage. Or maybe the rules were real and I was the only one taking them seriously. I didn't know. I stood there in the bright kitchen and wondered if we should just leave. I stood at the window at 10:12 p.m., still thinking about leaving, still running through it in my head. Pack the car, drive back in the dark, find a motel somewhere off 270. Probably wouldn't make it past Hot Springs before Peyton asked what the hell I was doing. Probably wouldn't have an answer that didn't sound paranoid. Then the lake went quiet. Not gradual, all at once. The frogs had been going steady for the last hour. That thick chorus you get near water in Arkansas this time of year. Background noise. The kind you stop noticing until it cuts out. It cut out. I registered it in a rush. Frogs stopping like someone flipped a switch. Wind still moving the treetops. I could see the pines swaying near the shoreline, branches dipping and rising. But the water went flat, completely flat, black and glassy, smooth as poured resin. No ripples, no movement at all. The rules snapped back into my head. If the water goes flat while trees are still moving, go inside immediately and lock doors. Get away from the windows, I said. Peyton looked at me from the couch. Joseph was still at the table with his phone. Close the curtains, I said. Louder that time. Keith, what? Keith. The voice came from outside, close to the cabin, maybe 10 feet from the window. It was Peyton's voice. Exact. Not close. Not similar. Her voice. Same pitch, same cadence, same slight rasp she gets when she's tired. Peyton was still on the couch. Her mouth wasn't moving. Joseph shifted toward the door. Instinct, probably. Curiosity. That 14-year-old reflex to check things out. I grabbed his arm. Hard. Harder than I meant to. My fingers dug into his bicep and he made a small noise, startled. Peyton stood up fast. Keith, you're hurting him? Keith? The voice again, quieter this time, like someone trying not to wake the house. Soft and careful and patient. Still Peyton's voice. I didn't answer, didn't move. Joseph's arm was tense under my hand and I realized I was still gripping him too tight. I loosened my fingers but didn't let go. Peyton's face had gone pale. She was staring at the window now, at the curtain I hadn't closed yet. Her lips barely moved when she spoke. Someone might need help. I shook my head. Keith, if someone's out there... Joseph. Different voice now. Sylvia's voice. sweet and impatient, that tone she used when Joseph was little and she wanted him to come inside for dinner. A mom voice, warm but insistent. "Joseph, honey, come outside." Joseph went rigid, his whole body locked up under my hand. I yanked the curtain shut with my free hand, grabbed Peyton's wrist with the other, pulled them both into the hallway, away from the windows, away from the door. Something heavy slid across the dock boards. Not footsteps. Dragged. Wet. Like a tarp full of something dense being pulled over wood. Slow and deliberate. I heard the boards creak under the weight. We stood in the hallway. Joseph was breathing fast through his nose. Peyton's wrist was cold in my hand. I still hadn't let go of either of them. The sliding sound stopped. We waited. I counted seconds in my head. Got to 47 before I lost track. My heart was doing that thing where it feels too big for my chest. Joseph hadn't moved. Peyton was staring at the front door like she could see through it. Then the frogs started again. All at once, the same way they'd stopped, like someone flipped the switch back. The chorus rose up from the shoreline. Full volume, no buildup. The lake reset itself. That's what it felt like. A reset. A return to normal programming. The wind kept moving the trees. The frogs kept croaking. The water probably wasn't flat anymore, though I wasn't about to check. I let go of Joseph's arm. Let go of Peyton's wrist. My hands were shaking a little. I put them in my pockets. Nobody said anything for a while. Joseph spoke first. His voice came out quieter than usual, younger. That was Mom's voice. "I know," I said, "but she's not here." "I know." Peyton was still staring at the door. She wrapped her arms around herself, hands gripping her elbows. "That was my voice," she said. I nodded. "How? I don't know." She looked at me. Her eyes were wide, and her jaw was tight, and she looked the way I'd felt 15 seconds after reading those rules for the first time. Scared and pissed off about being scared. "We're following the rules," I said. She didn't argue. Morning looked so normal it almost made me doubt my own memory. I woke up just after 7. The light coming through the bedroom window was clean and yellow, the kind that makes everything look simple. I could hear birds. Regular ones, not weird ones. Just sparrows or whatever they have out here. Peyton was already up. I found her in the kitchen making coffee with the little 4-cup machine that came with the cabin. She'd showered. Her hair was still damp and pulled back in a low ponytail, and she was wearing her gray leggings and the navy hoodie she packed. She looked calm, normal. I stood there for a second, not sure what to say. She glanced at me. "Coffee's almost done." "Thanks," I said. She poured herself a cup when it finished, then poured me one without asking. That was good. That felt like something she'd do on a normal morning. I took the cup. It was too hot to drink yet, so I just held it. "Sleep okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I lied. "You?" "Fine." We stood there drinking coffee like nothing happened. Like we hadn't heard our own voices calling from outside the window. Like there hadn't been something heavy and wet dragging itself across the dock. I kept waiting for her to bring it up. She didn't. After a minute, she said, "You were primed." I looked at her. "What?" "Last night. You read those rules, and then Iris showed up acting all serious, and your brain was already looking for things to be scared of." She said it like she'd been working on the explanation all morning. Maybe she had. "It's confirmation bias. You expect something creepy, so normal stuff starts feeling creepy." I didn't say anything. "The voices could have been an echo," she continued. "Or someone's radio. Or another camper messing around. It sounded exactly like you. Because you expected it to." I wanted to argue. I wanted to ask her how she explained the water going flat, or the frogs stopping all at once, or the sound on the dock. but she was holding her coffee with both hands and looking out the window at the lake, and her face was calm in a way that felt kind of fragile. Like she'd decided this was the story and she wasn't going to let go of it. So I didn't push. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe." She looked at me then, just for a second. I couldn't tell if she believed me or if she was relieved I wasn't going to fight her on it. Joseph came out of his room around 8. He was wearing the same graphic t-shirt from yesterday and a pair of gym shorts. His hair was sticking up on one side. "Morning," I said. "Hey." He grabbed a Coke from the fridge and sat down at the table with his phone. Normal 14-year-old stuff. Peyton made him toast with peanut butter. He ate it without looking up. But I noticed him checking the water line. He'd glance out the window every couple of minutes, not obvious, just a quick look, like he was making sure it was still there, or making sure nothing was standing in it. I didn't say anything about it. Around 9, I told myself I should pack the car and leave. That would be the responsible thing. The smart thing. Drive back to North Little Rock, find Peyton and me a cheap motel for the rest of the week, maybe drop Joseph off with one of Sylvia's friends if I could track one down. But I didn't, partly because of the money. $473 I didn't have, already gone. If I left now, that was just waste. And I'd still need to pay for a motel somewhere else, which would go on the same credit card Peyton didn't know about. But partly because I hated the idea that a piece of paper taped under a lockbox had spooked me. That was it, really. I hated that I was scared. So I stayed. Around 11:30, I told them we were going into town. Joseph perked up a little at that. Peyton just nodded and grabbed her purse. The drive into Hot Springs took about 25 minutes. I followed the gravel access road back to Highway 270, then took it south past a bunch of campgrounds and bait shops, and a Sonic with a faded sign. The highway curved through low hills covered in pine trees. Peyton had her window cracked and her elbow on the sill. Joseph was in the back with his earbuds in. We hit the Walmart just past noon. It was one of the big ones, the kind with a grocery section and a garden center and aisles that go on forever. The parking lot was half full. I parked near the entrance and we all got out. Inside, the air conditioning was running hard enough that I felt the sweat on my neck go cold. Peyton grabbed a cart even though we weren't buying groceries. Joseph wandered toward the electronics section. I told him to stay where I could see him. I went straight to the camping aisle. The lanterns were on the bottom shelf next to a bunch of fold-up chairs and a display of charcoal. They had two kinds, the cheap plastic ones for $12 and the heavier metal-cased ones for $28. I grabbed 2 of the metal ones. Then I grabbed 4 packs of D-cell batteries, the 8-count kind. Peyton came up behind me while I was loading them into the cart. "Really?" she said. "Iris said to use battery lanterns." I know what she said. I didn't look at her, just kept stacking the batteries. "You're actually doing this," she said. "Yeah." She laughed, but not in a mean way, more like she couldn't believe it. "Okay." That was it. She didn't stop me. We checked out at Register 9. The cashier was a young woman, maybe mid-20s, with black hair pulled back in a tight bun and a Walmart vest over a gray t-shirt. Her name tag said Callie. She scanned the lanterns without comment, then the batteries. "Camping?" she asked. "Something like that," I said. She told me the total. $93.42. I handed her my debit card and hoped it would go through. It did. Callie bagged everything in 2 plastic bags and handed them over. "Have a good one." "Thanks." Peyton was already heading for the door. Joseph was trailing behind her, looking at something on his phone. We walked across the parking lot to a Subway in the same plaza. It was one of those strip mall ones, squeezed between a Hibbett Sports and a vape shop. The windows had decals advertising a 6-inch sub for $5. Inside, there were 3 people ahead of us in line. The guy behind the counter was maybe late 20s, Black guy with short hair and a trimmed goatee, wearing a subway cap and a green polo. His name tag said Thomas. When it was our turn, I ordered a turkey sub on wheat. Peyton got a veggie. Joseph got a foot-long meatball with extra cheese. Thomas worked fast. He didn't make small talk, just built the sandwiches and wrapped them in paper and slid them into a plastic bag with napkins and 3 bags of chips. "Anything else?" he asked. "3 Cokes," I said. He rang it up, $22.16. I paid with the debit card again. Thomas handed me the bag. "Y'all have a good day." "You too." We ate in the car with the windows down. It was hot, but not unbearable. Joseph finished his sandwich in about 4 minutes. Peyton picked at hers. She looked at me while she was chewing. "You really think those lanterns are going to do something?" "I don't know," I said. "But you bought them anyway." "Yeah." She shook her head, but she was almost smiling. "You're so weird." I didn't know what to say to that, so I just kept eating. We got back to the cabin a little before 4. I carried the Walmart bags inside and set them on the kitchen counter. Peyton went straight to the bedroom. Joseph stood in the doorway for a second, looking out at the lake. "Can I fish?" he asked. I looked at him. "Where?" "Over there." He pointed to the left side of the property where the shoreline curved into a shallow inlet. There were reeds growing thick along the edge. "I saw some good spots earlier." I thought about it. The sun was still up. It wouldn't be dark for hours. "Yeah," I said. "Just stay where I can see you." "Cool." He grabbed his fishing rod from the porch. Sylvia had packed it in the trunk, one of the only useful things she'd sent with him, and headed down toward the water. I watched him go. He was wearing his sneakers and his hat, the one with the base on it. He looked like a regular kid going fishing. Peyton's phone rang inside the cabin. I heard her answer it. Her voice clipped and professional. "This is Peyton." A pause. "Tammy, I'm on vacation." I stepped back inside. Peyton was standing in the bedroom doorway with her phone pressed to her ear. Her jaw was tight. "I understand that," she said, "but I submitted my PTO 3 weeks ago." Another pause. Longer this time. "No, I can't check the schedule from here. I don't have my login." She listened for a while, her face getting more annoyed. "Fine," she said finally. "I'll call you tomorrow." She hung up and shoved the phone in her hoodie pocket. "Work?" I asked. "Tammy." She said the name like it tasted bad. "She wants me to confirm my shifts for next month because apparently someone messed up the schedule and now they're short on coverage. Can't they figure it out without you?" "You'd think?" She went into the bedroom and closed the door halfway. I heard her moving stuff around, probably unpacking or repacking or just doing something with her hands. I went back outside. Joseph was down by the water, standing on a flat rock near the inlet. He'd already cast his line. I could see the little red bobber floating about 10 feet out, just past the reeds. I sat down on the porch steps and watched him. The air smelled like pine and water. There was a light breeze moving through the trees. The lake was calm, just a few small ripples where the wind touched it. Normal. I watched Joseph's line bob up and down with the current. He adjusted his grip on the rod, shifted his weight. Patient. Quiet. Then something moved in the reeds, not on Joseph's side, on the other side of the inlet, maybe 30 yards across the water. The cattails shifted, bent sideways like something was pushing through them. I stood up. The reeds parted. An arm rose above them. Not a normal arm, too long, maybe, or the angle was wrong, but it was arm-shaped, pale. It waved, not slow, not casual, fast, rapid, back and forth like it was trying to get someone's attention. Joseph saw it. He turned toward the reeds, still holding his fishing rod in one hand. Then he smiled. He lifted his other hand and waved back, with both hands. He dropped the rod on the rock and waved with both arms over his head. big sweeping motions, grinning like he'd just spotted a friend across a parking lot. "Hey!" he shouted. The rule hit me like a warning flare. If you see someone standing in the reeds at the north end of the property, wave once, only once, then go inside. Once, not twice. Not with both hands, not while shouting. Once. I was already moving down the steps, my boots hitting gravel, then dirt, then the flat rocks near the waterline. "Joseph," I called. He didn't hear me. He was still waving, both arms up, looking thrilled. Like this was the coolest thing that had happened all day. The arm in the reeds waved back. Faster now, almost frantic. "Joseph," I shouted. He turned, still smiling. "Uncle Keith, someone's over there." I grabbed his shoulder and pulled him back from the water's edge, hard enough that he stumbled. "Hey, inside," I said. "Now." His smile dropped. "What? I was just... now." I didn't look back at the reeds. I kept my hand on his shoulder and walked him up toward the cabin, moving fast but not running. Running felt like it would make something worse. Behind us, I heard the cattails rustling. I didn't turn around. I waved once, sharp and quick, just my right hand, up and down, nothing friendly about it. Then I grabbed Joseph's shoulder and hauled him backward off the rock. He made a surprised noise, half laugh, half protest. His sneakers slipped on the wet stone and I had to catch his arm to keep him upright. The fishing rod clattered onto the gravel. "Hey, I was inside," I said. "Now." I didn't let go of his arm. I pulled him up the slope toward the cabin, my other hand on his back, pushing him forward faster than he wanted to go. The waving in the reeds stopped, just like that. The second I turned Joseph away, the arm dropped and the cattails went still. I looked back over my shoulder. Couldn't help it. Something pale lifted in the reeds, just enough to clear the tops of the cattails. Maybe a face, maybe not. It was the wrong shape for a face, or the right shape put together without understanding how the pieces worked. The mouth sat wrong, too wide, or too low, or both. I couldn't tell from 30 yards away, and I didn't want to get closer. It didn't move toward us, didn't rush the shoreline or slide into the water. It just held still, like it was listening. Joseph twisted in my grip, trying to look back. "Uncle Keith, what? Don't look at it." "At what?" "Just walk." I pushed him up the last few feet of slope, across the gravel onto the porch. My hand was shaking when I reached for the door handle. I shoved Joseph inside ahead of me and followed, pulling the door shut hard enough that the frame rattled. Peyton was standing in the kitchen with her phone still in her hand. She'd ended the call. Her eyes went from me to Joseph and back. "What happened?" "We're leaving," I said. "Right now." Joseph pulled his arm free and rubbed the spot where I'd been gripping him. Red marks, probably. I didn't apologize. Peyton set her phone down on the counter. "What are you talking about?" "Packing the car, driving back tonight. We're not staying here." "Keith." "I'm serious." She looked at Joseph. "Are you okay?" He nodded, but he was staring at me, not her. There was someone in the reeds. I waved, and Uncle Keith freaked out. "It wasn't someone," I said. Peyton's jaw tightened. "You're misreading everything." "I'm not." He probably waved at a fisherman, or a neighbor, or someone from another cabin. It wasn't a fisherman. You don't know that. I grabbed the rules paper off the counter where I'd left it that morning, held it up. Rule 5. If you see someone standing in the reeds at the north end of the property, wave once, only once, then go inside. I know what it says. Joseph waved with both hands. He shouted he broke the rule. Peyton crossed her arms. So what? Nothing happened. You dragged him inside, and now you want to leave because a piece of paper told you to wave a certain way. It's not about the paper. Then what's it about? I didn't have an answer that wouldn't sound paranoid. The arm was too long. The face was wrong. It didn't move like a person. None of that would convince her. "I saw something," I said finally, "in the reeds." After Joseph waved. "What did you see?" "I don't know." "You don't know or you won't say?" "Both." She laughed, not a happy sound. "This is what you do. You decide something's dangerous and then you make everyone follow your rules without explaining why." "I'm trying to keep us safe." "From what? A fisherman? A reflection? Your own paranoia?" Joseph was watching us, quiet, the way he got when Sylvia and I used to argue about her bills or her boyfriend or whether she was drinking again. I took a breath. "The rules aren't a joke. Iris said people who don't follow them end up—" "Iris is part of the prank," Peyton said. "Or she believes it, which is worse. Either way, I'm not leaving because you got scared." "I'm not scared. Then why are we packing?" I didn't answer. Peyton shook her head and turned toward the bedroom. "I'm not doing this." The porch light flickered. All three of us stopped. Peyton looked at the ceiling, the light fixture over the kitchen table, the lamp by the couch. None of them were on. It was still daylight, maybe another hour before sunset, and we hadn't turned on any interior lights. But the porch light was on. I could see it glowing faintly through the window, even though I hadn't flipped the switch. It flickered again, once, twice, then steady. Peyton stared at it. "That's the breaker." "Maybe," I said, "or the bulb." "Yeah." She didn't sound convinced, neither did I. Joseph moved to the window and looked out toward the reeds. I wanted to tell him to step back, but I didn't want to sound like I was panicking. "I don't see anyone," he said. "Good," I said. "Keep it that way." Peyton walked to the bedroom without saying anything else. I heard her open the closet. A minute later, she came out with her suitcase and set it on the bed. I thought she was packing to leave. She wasn't. By sunset, the lake looked normal again. Textured, little ripples from the breeze. A heron stood in the shallows near the inlet, still and patient, waiting for something to move. I stood at the window and watched the light fade. Orange, then pink, then that deep blue that comes right before dark. Peyton came out of the bedroom. She'd changed into jeans and a different hoodie. She had her suitcase open on the bed, but she'd only put in a few things. Slowly, like a statement. "You're still packing," I said. "I'm thinking about it. Thought you said I was overreacting." "You are." She walked to the fridge and got a Coke, opened it, took a drink. "But the light thing was weird." "Yeah." "Doesn't mean we have to leave." I didn't argue. She was talking herself into staying, and I knew better than to push. Joseph was on the couch with his phone. He'd been quiet since we came inside, not sulking, just quiet. The kind of quiet that meant he was thinking. Peyton sat in the chair across from him. "You okay?" He shrugged. "Yeah." "Your uncle didn't mean to scare you." "I'm not scared." "Okay." He looked at me. "What did you see in the reeds?" I thought about lying, telling him it was nothing, just a shadow, just my eyes playing tricks. But he'd know. "I don't know what I saw," I said, "but it didn't look right." "Like how?" "Like it wasn't a person." He nodded, didn't ask anything else. Peyton looked at me over the top of her Coke can. "You really want to leave?" "I think we should. Because of the rules. Because something's wrong here." "Wrong how?" "I don't know. But Iris drove out here without headlights to make sure we had the rules. She brought batteries. She looked relieved when I said we'd found the paper. That's not a prank. So what is it?" "A warning." Peyton set the can down on the side table. "You don't believe in this stuff. Ghosts, monsters, whatever you think is in the lake." "I don't." "But you want to leave anyway." "Yeah." She looked at Joseph, then back at me. "We already paid." I know. $473. I know. And you want to leave after one night? Yeah. She didn't say anything for a long time. Just sat there, arms crossed, staring at the floor. Then Joseph went quiet. Not regular quiet. The kind of quiet where you stop moving because you're listening to something no one else can hear. "Joseph," I said. He didn't answer. "Joseph." He looked up. His eyes were unfocused. "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" "Mom." My stomach dropped. Peyton sat forward. "What?" "She's calling me." He stood up, still holding his phone, and walked toward the door. "She sounds mad." I stepped in front of him. "Joseph, stop." "She said I haven't called her. She's been waiting." "That's not your mom. It sounds like her." "I know, but it's not." He tried to step around me. I put my hand on his chest, not hard, just enough to stop him. "She's on the dock," he said. "She wants me to come outside." Peyton stood up fast. "Keith, it's the lake," I said. "Same thing as last night. It's using her voice." Joseph blinked, focused on me. "But it sounds exactly like her." "I know." "How does it know what she sounds like?" "I don't know." He looked at the door, then back at me. "Is she really out there?" "No." "How do you know?" "Because your mom's in North Little Rock, or somewhere else. But she's not here." His face crumpled a little, not crying, just young. 14, going on 8. "Then who's calling me?" "Nothing good," I said. Peyton moved to the window and looked out. I wanted to tell her not to, but I was still holding Joseph in place. "I don't see anyone," she said. "You won't," I said. "Not until it wants you to." She turned around. Her face was pale. "This is real." "Yeah." "The rules, the voices, all of it." "Yeah." She looked at Joseph, then at me. "We should leave." "I know. Right now." "In the morning," I said. "It's already dark." "I don't care. I'm not driving that road at night. Not after this." She opened her mouth, closed it, nodded. Joseph was still staring at the door. I can still hear her. I needed to break his focus, get him thinking about something else, anything else. The Walmart bags were still on the counter. I grabbed one and pulled out the metal lantern, ripped open the plastic packaging, grabbed the batteries from the other bag, and loaded 4 D cells into the bottom compartment, twisted the top. The LED panels lit up bright white, way brighter than I expected. I set it on the kitchen table. "Joseph," I said, "come here." He didn't move. "Joseph, look at me." He turned his head, slowly. "Sit at the table." He walked over, sat down, still holding his phone. I pulled the chair around so he was facing the lantern instead of the window. "Look at the light, not the door, not the windows, just the light." He stared at it. "If you feel like you want to go outside, I want you to count your breaths, in and out, slow. You know how to do that?" He nodded. "Show me." He breathed in through his nose, out through his mouth, in, out. "Good. Keep doing that." Peyton was watching me. "Will that work?" "I don't know, but it's better than letting him stare at the door." Joseph kept breathing, in and out, watching the lantern. He looked like he was following a safety drill, the kind they teach you in school for tornadoes or fires. Simple instructions. Clear steps, don't think. Just follow. I stood behind his chair and put my hand on his shoulder. He didn't pull away. Outside, the wind picked up. I could hear it moving through the pines, the water lapping against the dock. And underneath that, faint and distant, I could hear something calling. Not my name, not Peyton's, Joseph's. I tightened my grip on his shoulder. He kept breathing, kept staring at the light. The sun was gone. Full dark now. Night settling in around the cabin, pressing against the windows, testing the locks. I could feel it coming back around. At 10:03, the frogs cut out again. I was standing by the sink with the lantern on the counter next to me, watching Joseph at the table. He'd stopped counting somewhere around 400. His eyes were still fixed on the light, but his lips weren't moving anymore. The silence hit like someone had flipped a switch. No build. Just nothing. I turned toward the window. Couldn't see through the curtain, but I knew. The lake had gone flat again. Then I heard it. That scraping sound from last night. The wet sliding drag across the dock boards. Closer this time, right at the shore end of the dock, maybe 15 feet from the porch. "Keith!" Peyton's voice was tight. She was still standing near the hallway, arms wrapped around herself. I moved to the front window and yanked the curtain shut, then the one on the side. Joseph didn't move. I crossed to the bedroom doors and pulled those curtains too, the fabric bunching in my fist. "What are you doing?" Peyton asked, closing the curtains. "I can see that." I didn't explain. I just kept moving. Kitchen window, bathroom window. Every piece of glass in the cabin got covered. When I came back to the main room, Peyton was standing in the middle of the floor with her hands at her sides. Her fingers were opening and closing. "I can't do this," she said. I waited. "I can't just sit here and wait for—" She stopped, shook her head. "We should run for the car. Right now. Just get in and go." "No. Keith, we can't just—" "The Subaru's parked 20 feet from the shoreline." I kept my voice level. "We'd be silhouettes the whole way. Whatever's out there would see us coming. So what, we just wait?" "We wait until morning." She stared at me. Her jaw was tight and her eyes were too wide. She looked the way I felt. A knock came at the door. Not loud, polite even. 3 taps, evenly spaced. Joseph's head snapped toward the sound. Peyton went rigid. I grabbed the lantern off the counter and moved toward the entryway, holding it up so the beam pointed at the door. My other hand went out to the side, blocking Peyton from moving forward. "Don't," I said. She didn't answer. The knock came again, same rhythm. 3 taps, then a voice from outside. "Peyton!" It was her voice, exact pitch, exact tone, tired and hurt like she'd been locked out in the cold and couldn't understand why no one was letting her in. "Peyton, please." Next to me, the real Peyton made a choked sound. Her whole body jerked forward. I caught her arm. "Don't." She ripped free. Hard enough that I stumbled back a step. She crossed the room in 4 strides and reached for the deadbolt. "Peyton, stop!" The bolt slid back with a metallic click. She turned the handle. I lunged. Too late. The door swung open. Darkness poured in. Not just the absence of light. Something thicker. And the smell. Lake water and rot and something underneath that I didn't have a name for. I raised the lantern. In the beam stood a figure shaped like Peyton. Same height, same build. Same blonde hair pulled back in a low ponytail. But the face was wrong. It was her face, mostly. The features were in the right places. But it looked like someone had tried to copy it in a hurry. The eyes didn't reflect the light the way they should. Too flat. Too dark. And the mouth was moving, opening and closing, like it was remembering how to form words. Behind me, the real Peyton made a sound. Small and broken. I heard her step backward. 1 step. 2. The thing on the porch tilted its head. Water dripped from its hair onto the boards. Its clothes were soaked, clinging to its frame. It raised one arm and waved. Once. Slow and deliberate. I didn't think. I just moved. I dropped the lantern and tackled Peyton sideways, away from the threshold. We hit the floor hard, my shoulder taking most of the impact. Then something grabbed her ankles. She screamed, a sharp, high sound that cut off as she started sliding. Across the floor, toward the open door. I lunged forward and caught her wrists. Her skin was cold, too cold. like she'd been outside for hours. "Keith, I've got you." But I didn't. Whatever had her was strong, stronger than me. She kept sliding, and I was being dragged with her. Behind us, Joseph was crying. I could hear him in the hallway, still trying to count through the sobs. 501, 502. I dug my heels into the floorboards. It didn't help. Peyton's fingers were slipping in my grip. Her palms were slick with sweat or lake water or something else. I reached out with one hand and grabbed the door frame, used it as an anchor. "Don't let go," Peyton said. Her voice was shaking. "Keith, don't let go." "I won't." But her fingers slipped. Just a little, then a little more. I tightened my grip, felt her wrist bones grinding under my hands. She screamed again, and then she was gone, ripped out of my hands in one smooth pull. She slid across the threshold and into the dark, her body disappearing so fast I didn't have time to grab for her again. The door swung shut, not slammed, just clicked softly into place like someone had closed it carefully from the outside. The scraping sound stopped. Everything stopped. I was on the floor, on my knees, staring at the door. My hands were still in the air, fingers curled around nothing. Joseph was crying harder now. I could hear him choking on it. I didn't move, couldn't move. My brain was trying to process what had just happened, but it kept hitting a wall. Peyton was outside. Peyton was gone. Something took her. No. I stood up. My legs shook, but they held. I grabbed the lantern off the floor and turned toward the hallway. Joseph was sitting against the wall with his knees pulled up to his chest, arms wrapped around his head. His whole body was shaking. "Joseph." He didn't look up. I crossed the room and crouched in front of him, put one hand on his shoulder. "Joseph, we're leaving, right now." He didn't respond. I pulled his arms away from his head. His face was red and wet, eyes squeezed shut. "Look at me." He opened his eyes. They were unfocused, pupils blown wide. "We're going to the car. I need you to stand up." He didn't move. I grabbed him under the arms and hauled him to his feet. He swayed, but I kept him upright. "Can you walk?" He nodded. I didn't believe him. I kept one hand on his shoulder and moved toward the door. Stopped, looked back at the cabin. The rules paper was still on the counter, the batteries, Peyton's suitcase in the bedroom. I left all of it. I opened the door. Didn't look at the porch, or the dock, or the water. Just stepped outside with Joseph pressed against my side and the lantern held out in front of us. The Subaru was parked 10 feet away. I half-carried Joseph across the gravel. He was stumbling, feet dragging. I opened the passenger door and shoved him inside, then ran around to the driver's side. Keys were in my pocket. I pulled them out with shaking hands, dropped them, picked them up, jammed the key into the ignition. The engine turned over. I didn't turn on the headlights. I reversed out of the drive in the dark, using the lantern on the dashboard to see the gravel road. The Subaru bounced over ruts and rocks. Joseph braced himself against the door. I kept my eyes on the road. Didn't look at the lake, didn't look at the cabin. Just drove. The gravel stretched on forever. Every shadow looked like something standing in the road. Every tree looked like it was leaning in. Then I hit pavement. Highway 270. I turned right and flipped on the headlights. Joseph was still crying, quieter now. I reached over and put my hand on his arm. "It's okay. We're out." He didn't answer. I drove for 10 minutes before I saw the Shell station. Bright fluorescent lights in the windows, yellow sign lit up overhead. I pulled into the parking lot and stopped the car. A woman came out from behind the counter as I walked in. Mid-50s, gray hair and a perm, wearing a blue polo with a name tag that said Amber. "You okay, hun?" she asked. I wasn't, but I nodded. "I need to use your phone." She looked at me for a second, then at Joseph in the car, then back at me. "Sure." She pulled a cordless phone from under the counter and handed it to me. I dialed 911. It rang twice. 911, what's your emergency? The voice was calm, professional, male. I need to report a kidnapping, I said, and a missing person. Okay, sir. Can you tell me your location? I gave him the address of the cabin, rattled off the numbers from memory. And who's missing? Peyton Cruz, my fiancée. Something took her. There was a pause. Something took her. Yes. Can you describe what happened? I tried. It came out in fragments. The door. The figure. The thing that grabbed her. The dispatcher. Daniel. He said his name was Daniel Pearson. Stayed calm the whole time, asking questions, writing things down. Amber stood behind the counter watching me. She'd already picked up her own phone. I heard her talking quietly to someone else. By the time I hung up, 2 sheriff's deputies were pulling into the lot. They met me outside, a man and a woman. The man was tall, broad, close-cropped hair. Wesley McGuire, his badge said. The woman was shorter, dark braid, sharp eyes. Paige Strickland. Wesley did most of the talking, asked me to repeat everything. I did. He didn't write much down. You said you rented the cabin through Airbnb? He asked. Yes. Who's the listed owner? I told him the name from the listing. I couldn't remember it exactly. Something generic. Paige pulled out a tablet and tapped on it for a minute. That name doesn't match county records, she said. Wesley looked at me. You sure that's the right address? Yes. And you paid cash? Credit card. He nodded. Didn't say anything. You need to check the shoreline, I said. The dock. That's where she was taken. We'll check it out, Wesley said. He didn't sound like he believed me. They left. Told me to wait at the station. I sat in the Subaru with Joseph. He'd stopped crying, but he wasn't talking either. Just stared out the window at nothing. Amber brought us 2 Cokes and a bag of chips. I thanked her. Didn't open them. The deputies came back an hour later. Paige walked up to my window. I rolled it down. We checked the property, she said. And we found this. She held up a clear plastic evidence bag. Inside was Peyton's engagement ring. Small, silver band, single diamond. It was on the dock, Paige said, placed right in the center, next to a set of D-cell batteries, wet. I stared at the bag. That's it? I asked. That's it? No footprints? No sign of her? No, sir. Wesley stepped up next to her. We're opening a missing person report, he said. We'll have search and rescue out there at first light, but right now there's nothing else we can do. I nodded. They asked me a few more questions, took my contact information, told me to call if I remembered anything else. Then they left. I sat in the car for another 20 minutes, watched the sky start to lighten in the east. Joseph finally spoke. Where are we going? Little Rock, I said. I started the engine and pulled out of the lot. The drive back took 2 hours. Joseph fell asleep somewhere past Hot Springs. I kept both hands on the wheel and my eyes on the road. The missing person report was open. The deputies had my number. They'd call if they found anything. But they wouldn't. I knew that. Whatever took Peyton wasn't something they'd find with search dogs and sonar. I pulled into my apartment complex a little after 8 in the morning. Carried Joseph inside. He woke up enough to walk, but he didn't say anything. I put him on the couch and covered him with a blanket. Then I sat at the kitchen table and stared at my phone. No missed calls, no texts, just a missing person report and a wet engagement ring in an evidence bag. That was it.